Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Briar Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, there's nobody better in the business to work with than the great people over at Briar Greaves Insurance. For more information about them, visit briargreavesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That is 813-876-4166. It is a special Friday edition of the Pewter Report podcast, and we are doing it a little bit earlier at noon. Happy Friday to everybody. We are going to recap everything that happened in the joint practice between the Bucs and the Steelers that took place at Acrisure Stadium, formerly Heinz Field, now Acrisure Stadium. We were there yesterday in Pittsburgh. We are back in Tampa this morning, so we are from our typical home studios, and we'll explain more about that later on. I'm your host, Matt Matera, joined with me, my co-host, and also fellow colleague that was with me in Pittsburgh these past couple of days, Adam Slivon. Adam, how are we doing?
Matt, we're doing good. We're a little bit tired, The podcast got delayed. It was supposed to be yesterday, but our flight also got delayed yesterday too. So that's why we're sitting here at home, doing the podcast now. But what I'm really excited to go over, Matt, is all of the Bucs news and all the practice notes and observations that we had, because it was an entertaining 2-hour practice.
It was. There was a lot of aggressiveness from the Bucs that we love to see. Great stuff from Baker Mayfield that we'll kind of break down a little bit more, especially the wide receivers. A lot on defense to get into as well. But it was an interesting day overall because 2 days prior, the Bucs practiced at Carnegie Mellon University, and we recapped all of that show live from our hotel in Pittsburgh, so you can check that one out on our YouTube channel. But yesterday was different. Thursday was different because it was actually at the Steelers Stadium, Acrisure Stadium. So that was fun, just trying to figure out where we're going in the city of Pittsburgh. I've been to Pittsburgh a couple of times, but I hadn't really been to the Steelers Stadium just yet. I've been to the Penguins one, but not that one. So trying to find like the right way to get to the stadium, go to the specific lot that would shuttle us over. That was a whole adventure. Setting up shop was very interesting as well. Also, we have a video live look on our YouTube channel, Pewter Report TV. You can check it out. It's a little bit different than the Bucs-Titans joint practice. And that's because when you're the road team, and that stands for the media too, you go by the rules of the home team and their PR staff. And I'm not going to say anything negative by any means. We are super grateful and thankful to be there at Acrisure Stadium. I'll just say that there's different rules when it comes to posting things for the Bucs and when there's posting things for the Steelers. So definitely some good stuff to go and check out, but it's a lot more of, warm-ups, getting things ready, getting together versus like one-on-ones and stuff like that. But certainly an adventure getting to Pittsburgh, being on the field for the whole practice. We saw a lot of people. Said hello to Rondé Barber, who was there. Yeah. He's going to be calling the game on Saturday night. We saw Ben Roethlisberger there as well. A couple of other big names were there too. So really cool to see all of practice. And then, as Adam mentioned, we had a flight to catch. So if you saw our quick recap, we did it outside of the Steelers facility because we were waiting
for our Uber,
get on over to the airport itself. And we had a connector going from Pittsburgh to Atlanta and then Atlanta to Tampa. But because our first flight was delayed, we unfortunately missed our connecting flight back to Tampa. So we had to stay in a hotel that the airline provided last evening. And we got up 5 a.m. and now we're back in Tampa. We are rocking, ready to roll. It was a ton of fun in Pittsburgh and great watching all of this football with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the past 2 days in Pittsburgh, a really gritty city overall. Adam, this is your first time in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
What'd you think about the area?
I really enjoyed Pittsburgh. I enjoyed Parmenti Bros, the sandwich place that we went to where they put the fries on the sandwich. That was a great experience. But just overall, it was a different vibe, for us and for the team. I mean, the Bucs are used to practicing in this 95-degree heat, and up there they got a little reprieve. It was in the mid 80s, so enjoyed the weather, enjoyed the time, even with like some of the issues that we had. It still made for an entertaining week.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call it issues, just more adjustments, Call it
Yeah.
an audible, a can, as Baker Mayfield would say in that picture right there. But yeah, let's get into what happened in practice yesterday. We will start with who was participating and not participating. Not participating, once again, was Antoine Winfield Jr., who I just had up on the screen a moment ago. No Benjamin Morrison, no Bryce Hall, and the one kind of newcomer to being out after Rashad White too, he was still out, was Anthony Nelson, the Bucs
Yeah.
outside linebacker. He was out for really the first time during this training camp. Maybe it was a vet day off. We'll see if he returns for the preseason game on Saturday night. But there were some important big returns to this team on Thursday at the wide receiver position, a group that we've talked about a ton, just dropping like flies, not being available, and then also talking about the greatness of the top three receivers. But Cameron Johnson and Trey Palmer returned to practice for the first time in several weeks, which I find very, very interesting. They're
Yeah.
not going to play on Saturday because they literally just returned. But looking forward past that game against the Steelers, when they prepare for Buffalo in week 3 of the preseason, not really preparing a ton. It's going to be a mad dash for those final wide receiver spots because Trey Palmer and Cameron Johnson have a lot of ground to make up, Adam, but it was at least good to see them returning to practice yesterday.
Yeah, you're not wrong. They really have to catch up with the rest of the wide receivers in the room because after like Ryan Miller showed out in the first preseason game, the team signed Jaden Smith and Jacob Harris to kind of make up for some of the injuries with Palmer and Johnson. But when you look at Trey Palmer and Cameron Johnson for the final preseason game playing the Bills, it's probably like their last trial, their last time seeing the field before the Bucs really have some tough cuts to make. And you look at like Ryan Miller, Sterling Shepard, you throw Rakim Jarrett, Garrett Green, who's looked really good and come along the past week or so. Like, are these guys even going to make it? Or they're just too injury prone. Johnson last year, he didn't play at all. He was on the field. He had one target in the end zone and he dropped it. And then Trey Palmer, ever since his, I would say he had a good rookie year for being a 6th-round pick. He really wasn't a factor last year, being that vertical threat. And you kind of look at it, it's like, okay, these guys are here now, but for how much longer will they be around?
Yeah, I feel like Trey Palmer got sidelined a little bit, and literally, when he scored a touchdown against the Eagles, and he kind of dove head first or landed on his head as well, and he got a concussion from it, and he missed a little bit of time. I feel like he kind of fell out of favor, not like with the team, like there's only so much you can do with concussions, stuff like that, but that kind of began him not being in the rotation as much, not being as much of a factor. And then at the time, with offensive coordinator Liam Cohen, he had just found other options like Ryan Miller and people just being able to get the job done. Even when Mike and Chris were out, Trey Palmer didn't really become that focal point. Even when Jalen McMillan was out too, when all three were out, it wasn't really Trey Palmer being the guy. So I don't know. It's going to be tough for him, I think, to make this team. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bucs end up trying to maybe even trade Trey Palmer. Now it's tough to trade an injured guy for the time being, but I don't know. I mean, when you look at the top 4, if you include Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Emeka Buga, Jalen McMillan as well, then you're looking at special teams, and we've seen what Trey Palmer was doing on punt return last year. I'd rather roll the dice with Ryan Miller, with Garrett Green, as you mentioned, with some of the other guys, than kind of trot back out Trey Palmer. Screw it. I'd be down with Emeka Buka as a punt returner, maybe just for this season until he's really like the cream of the crop when it comes to the wide receiver room. But I'm all for different options. It's unfortunate for Trey Palmer, but I think the Bucs got to, kind of advance with their situation, both at receiver and in the punt return game too.
Yeah, you've kind of seen this wide receiver room overhaul that's gone younger, and they've got some really good talent, McMillan, Nabuka, the past 2 drafts, and that kind of leaves guys like Trey Palmer and Cameron Johnson on the outside looking in. And I was on the JP Peterson show yesterday, and he asked me about the wide receiver room, how I see it looking. And I would say those top 4, you have Tez Johnson at number 5. I think Ryan Miller makes a team at number 6. And then you put Sterling Shepard and Garrett Green on the practice squad. Maybe one other guy of the 3 with like Palmer, Johnson, and Rakim Jarrett. Maybe one of those guys makes it, but there's going to be a couple guys that they're wide receivers on the team right now, but they're not going to be for much longer.
Yeah, and a factor in all of this as well is that Chris Godwin is likely, not guaranteed, but likely going to begin the season on the PUP list. I mean, he still hasn't practiced. He didn't make the trip to Pittsburgh. Neither did Tristan Wirfs either. It wasn't like they just singled out Chris Godwin. But when Chris Godwin specifically isn't even practicing, then you're probably not going to activate him for the beginning of the regular season. So I just kind of think that maybe you're keeping 6, but really you're keeping 7 until Chris Godwin is available. So who gets that extra kind of 7th spot overall, I think will be very, very interesting. One other in and out to talk about, and that unfortunately happened during practice. That was J.J. Roberts, the standout undrafted free agent safety out of Marshall. This was during special teams as well. He was working as a gunner or blocking the gunner, and it was tough to tell exactly what happened, but he was like limping around after they almost like brought the card out, but I think it was
you saw the card come out.
Like the card came out, but he didn't get on it until later. I think it was more of a precautionary thing because he was standing. It wasn't like he was on the ground and he had to be lifted by like the medical team and stuff like that. Looks like it could be a knee injury, but I had asked Todd Bowles if he saw what happened because Bowles was there like after because it was kind of weird because they're doing, punt and punt return with the Bucs and the Steelers, but then you got J.J. Roberts who's injured like all the way down the field. The punt return is only like 10 yards away from J.J. Roberts, and Todd Bowles almost had to be like a bodyguard until the cart got over there, or at least until J.J. Roberts was able to get off to the sideline. So Bowles said that he's going to get X-rays and an MRI today. The Bucs have an off day with their preseason game against the Steelers coming up tomorrow night, Saturday night at 7:00, which we'll have a Pewter post-game show for. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Adam, this is a big hit for the Bucs secondary that is still without Antoine Winfield Jr., and more so because J.J. Roberts has been one of the big storylines, one of the shining lights of this secondary and newcomers on this team.
Yeah, Roberts has really shown up and shown out the past week, breaking up a ton of passes, just flying around the field. Like he looked like he was going to make the 53-man roster. So this injury, it kind of derails him a little bit. But with Winfield, he's not going to play on Saturday. I don't expect him to play in the preseason. Right. It's going to be an opportunity for guys like Kayvon Merriweather and Shiloh Sanders, the guy pictured here. He said what up to Pewter Report yesterday in that picture.
He did.
Thought that was funny. But for Sanders, I mean, this is an opportunity to say, hey, Roberts, he had the upper hand throughout training camp. Can he make up some ground? He showed some physicality the first preseason game. Can he put it together? He told us after that game last week that he wants to unleash his abilities to the max. And he has a prime, pun intended, opportunity to do so.
Hey, that was good right there. By the way, Reagan DeSalvo says, afternoon, gentlemen. Want to give a shout out to Reagan. He has been making some graphics for us at pewterreport.com. You can follow his Instagram, Gridiron GFX, as you see in his picture right there. Reagan is doing a fantastic job with all the graphics that he has been making. So if you see it on our Instagram or some of our YouTube thumbnails, that is the person that is helping us out with that, and he's doing a fantastic job. So shout out to you, Reagan. Shout out to everyone that is watching the show this afternoon. We know it's a little bit of a different time, but we want to get the word out about Bucs and Steelers joint training camp practice as much and as quickly as we possibly could. But yeah, with Shiloh, he's going to get a big-time opportunity, and we'll see how long J.J. Roberts is out for. And we know that the starters are going to be playing, but with all of the starters out or injured, in the secondary at the safety position, you can even see Winfield in the background here. I know
Yeah.
we had that other picture of Antoine Winfield Jr., but you can see him in the background with Shiloh kind of looking at us. At this point, the Bucs were running Tyke Smith and Christian Izien as the starting safeties at one point, once J.J. Roberts was out there too. You imagine that's what it's going to look like on Saturday when they line up against the Steelers and whoever's going for the Steelers. It won't be Aaron Rodgers. It won't be DK Metcalf, but it'll be a lot of the other starters. Shiloh's got to be in that second wave that's going to be coming in, besides Kayvon Merriweather as well. What do you want to see from Shiloh specifically? Because on the one hand, he's been awesome at blitzing, getting into the backfield with TFLs and, that big hit on the quarterback that he did against Tennessee the week before. Would you rather see him kind of pour it on more there and really carve out that niche? Or do you want to see some plays made in the secondary, in coverage, PBUs, interceptions, obviously, to really round out his game a little bit more?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when you look at like his play style, physicality is his best attribute. And you saw that last week when he was rushing on a blitz and, got after the quarterback. I think he's really good there. And I think that's how he carves out his niche to make the roster. But I kind of want to see more all around from him. And maybe he's the lone safety dropping back, playing more coverage. And we can talk about the defensive notes a little bit later, but he had a really close rep with Pat Freiermuth, the Pittsburgh tight end, and he's 6'5", 260, and he was hanging in there with him. So I want to see that more this weekend, because if he can show he's as strong in coverage as he is physical, I think he has a chance to, maybe make the team if his injury, it prolongs a little bit, or, he's the first guy on the practice squad.
I think Shiloh's destined for the practice squad unless, again, something is long-term with J.J. Roberts or someone else. We'll talk about Shiloh more throughout the rest of training camp and stuff like that. But we have to talk about these Tampa Bay Buccaneer wide receivers and the job that they did yesterday, specifically against the Steelers. Mike Evans, who will not be participating in Saturday night's game, put on a clinic. He put on a freaking masterclass of why he is the GOAT, of why he's the greatest offensive player in Tampa Bay Buccaneers history, why he's on the Mount Rushmore of Bucs players, doesn't matter what era or what years that they were playing. The fade pass has kind of gone away in the NFL because it's not a high percentage play.
Yeah.
But Mike Evans is the exception to the rule when it comes to that. Mike Evans is inevitable when it comes to going to the corner of the end zone. It's not always a fade. Sometimes it's a crosser route. Sometimes it's a post, whatever the case may be. But if Mike Evans is going to the back pylon, whether it's the right side or the left side, he is going to get the job done. And he didn't just get the job done, Mike Evans. He was doing it against Jalen Ramsey several times in practice. At goal line, corner of the end zone. One-on-one against Jalen Ramsey. This is probably one of my favorite reps that happened of all
day
on Thursday practice. It was one-on-one. Jalen Ramsey lined up against Mike Evans. Mike Evans pretty much just ran a go route, hit it like a little bit of a stutter step. Had a step or two ahead of Jalen Ramsey. Baker Mayfield threw a great ball. Boom. Catch in the back left of the end zone. Ramsey kind of collided into Mike Evans after. They both went tumbling to the ground. And I'm like, oh, my God, stay healthy. Stay up. Stay healthy, Mike Evans. He laid on the ground for a second. As we've seen with Mike, sometimes he'll take another second or two to kind of regain his bearings and kind of labor through it a little bit. But then he got back up. He had the big smile on his face, like, you got to be kidding me. Like, we're in training camp practice and I'm getting hit around like this and stuff like that. The first touchdown he had against Ramsey, too, Jalen Ramsey was really giving it to the ref after. I don't think it was anything that Mike Evans did that would have been penalized anyway. But, Ramsey was trying to save face right then and there. And then Mike Evans in 2-minute drills at the end of practice put a nice bow on all of his work in Pittsburgh, because, again, he won't be practicing on Saturday, with a touchdown over the middle of the field. Who was in coverage once again? Jalen Ramsey. And we've seen this matchup before, Mike Evans and Jalen Ramsey, over when Ramsey was on the Rams, no pun intended. But it's one thing when you do it against the Titans. It's another when you do it against a guy of the caliber of Jalen Ramsey. I don't care if Mike Evans does not practice until week 1 of the regular season when they go against the Atlanta Falcons. This guy, we know he's amazing. Like, newsflash, Mike Evans is great.
Oh, yeah.
But this guy looks more ready for this season than he has in the past 2 to 3 training camps, which is scary to say.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. In less than a week until his 32nd birthday, and we're saying that, like, Evans looks as good as ever. And for him yesterday, it was his game. Todd Bowles mentioned that, he's going to be in shutdown mode kind of going forward. He's not obviously going to play the last 2 preseason games, but that whole 2-minute sequence, Matt, you summarized it really well when looking at Evans. But Jalen McMillan, man, he had one sideline catch. He beat Brandon Eccles for about 20 yards. And then what did he do next play against Jalen Ramsey, no less? He caught this catch somehow. Like, I thought Ramsey had the PBU. The ball's in the air. He pulls it down. And then that really set up Evans with 4 seconds on the clock. Like, you're sitting there. Like, who's Baker going to throw the ball to? Oh, he's going to throw it to Mike. Throws it to him across the middle. He beats Ramsey. I mean, these Bucs wide receivers, man, this isn't even mentioning Emeka Egbuka. I think he's dynamic. There was a rep where he also beat Eccles down the left sideline. He turned about a 20-yard throw into a 40-yard touchdown. So I thought overall all these Bucs wide receivers yesterday did great against great competition too, because you had Darius Slay out there, Joey Porter Jr. Like, these are all above average corners, but the Bucs wide receivers also showed they're above average too.
They are such a special group. I'm glad you brought up Jalen McMillan because, again, he doesn't always get the headlines that Mike will certainly get, and that Emeka Egbuka, who they have earned it, and Emeka Egbuka has earned it, is getting those headlines as well. But McMillan, it's like one of those things, like if you're able to stop Mike Evans, because there's no actually shutting down Mike Evans. You can only hope to contain him.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like you finally have the answers to limiting Mike Evans. You finally have the answers to limiting Emeka Egbuka. And then it's like, oh my God, now Jalen McMillan's doing his thing. Jalen McMillan may not always have the short underneath routes, but you give him a throw 15, 20, 25 yards down the field, and he's making those big plays. And they were almost identical. This is where my cousin Vinny, I go, identical for those that remember that scene in My Cousin Vinny. They were almost the same exact plays, but just on the different side of the field. So that was really good to see from Jalen McMillan. He looked so much more aggressive, willing to go after the football, high point it, use his athleticism to beat the defender to it, jump as high as he can. His athletics and verticals are really off the charts. And then speaking of off the charts, you already had mentioned him briefly. Emeka Egbuka is making defensive backs look silly. And I get it when it's one-on-ones and you got to cover the whole field and there's no pass rush and there's no safety help. There are times corners are going to get beat a little worse than most. It's just the nature of it. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. But there was a corner for the Steelers. He's in his second year. His last name is Bean. He had the unfortunate task of trying to cover Emeka Egbuka. And there was just no chance. Egbuka beat him deep. He beat him over the middle. He was making catches left and right. He was scoring in 7-on-7 red zone. He was scoring at the goal line and all of these different things. Emeka Egbuka was routinely, and he didn't just go up against one cornerback, but Emeka Egbuka was routinely gaining 25 yards per reception. He was I hadn't seen Emeka Egbuka talk trash, and that was another really fun thing about this practice, Adam, is they were playing music throughout the stadium, but when we're on the sidelines right then and there, I know we talked about it on Wednesday when the Bucs were just practicing against themselves. When you see trash talk with the other team, it's creative, it's fun, and seeing Emeka Egbuka get into it, I'd never really seen that before. He's only been here for a little bit. Emeka Egbuka is going to be a star. I have no doubt in my mind. And he's going to be an immediate star. And I don't think that star is going to fade when Chris Godwin returns either. Like, there was one play, they put him in motion. He started on the left side. He went to the right side and really started sprinting as the ball was snapped. It was almost like For those that maybe watched arena football back in the day, shout out to the New York Dragons and the Tampa Bay Storm. The receivers could get a running start, so they always had an advantage. And the NFL, you can kind of get away with it when you put a guy in motion. Emeka Egbuka was open within a quarter of a second once he was in motion and moving. His route running might be the most special thing about all of his greatness at wide receiver. And I know I'm hyping him up a lot, but I'm not the only one that has been so infatuated with what Emeka Egbuka has done.
Yeah, we're not the only ones hyping him up either. I mean, like every local person is like, Emeka Egbuka has looked really good, but you have national people who come to Bucs training camp for a day and they're like, man, this guy's a stud.
Yeah.
I think Kate Adams posted something like, get ready for Canton looking at Egbuka. And it's like, he's just so polished. And we wouldn't be talking about him every single day, every single practice, if he wasn't doing as well as we're telling you. Like, he is the real deal. And then when you look at like the fact that he fell to number 19, Matt, like
right.
Jason Light said, this is a top 10 talent on the board, and he's one of the best evaluators of talent in the business when you look at his recent draft track record. And it's like, this guy not only blends supreme talent, like he spoke at his press conference after practice, he's also such a high character guy. Like, he's a unicorn. It's not often you get a wide receiver, and we talk about this with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Like, they're not divas. And Egbuka is the same thing. Like, he's all about business, all about ball. And you just love to see it because he's going to fit right in now. And then someday when the torch inevitably gets passed on from Evans to Egbuka, like, you have complete faith that the wide receiver core, it's going to be fine for a very long time.
It is going to be A-okay. So it was awesome seeing all of those receivers really flourish in so many different ways. And part of the reason why they were flourishing was because Baker Mayfield was throwing them the football. Now, Baker Mayfield was originally going to play against the Steelers on Saturday, but Todd Bowles later told Rick Stroud that Baker was so good in practice that now he's not going to play because he did such a good job. So Baker Mayfield, early on in goal line, Bucs were pretty successful. Baker hit Mike Evans in the end zone. Bucky Irving rushed in for a touchdown.
Yep.
But one of the touchdowns, I believe it was to McMillan, that I was so impressed with, and Baker was doing it in 11-on-11s as well, is Baker is reading the blitzes like so precisely. He knows where the person is coming. If it's the corner off the edge, he knows the exact time of when to get the ball out and who it needs to go to. And without fail, he gets that completion. He gets that big play, because when you blitz, if you get the pass off, you're going to have a mismatch one way or another. I love how in control Baker Mayfield has been with this offense. It was another day, Adam, where Baker did not turn the football over and none of the quarterbacks turned the football over. And I think this is great to see from Josh Grizzard as well, because that was kind of the mantra of Dave Canales 2 years ago, which is we're going to play mistake-free football. And they did to a good degree. I mean, Baker did not have a lot of interceptions, where last year with Liam Cohen, Baker Mayfield was tied for the league lead in interceptions with Kirk Cousins, but you were a little more accepting of it because Baker was also letting it fly and threw for 4,500 yards and all of that stuff. I think with Grizzard early on, what we're seeing is that we're getting the best of what we liked about Canales and the best of what we liked about Liam Cohen. And we've seen it with Baker being able to push the football. He still needs to work on the deep ball a little bit, but push the football, but also be smart with it at the same time. I thought that McMillan throw, when he put it past the corner and in front of the safety, that was one of the best throws. The 2-minute drill, he was great. Baker Mayfield is just so in tune with what's going on right now. I'm a little upset we're not going to see him in the preseason game, but I think that might be fine with how good he's been playing.
Yeah, he's in tune. He's locked in. And Egbuka was like, even though it's just a mustache right now, like no matter what facial hair he has, it's the same Baker. And it really is, from the menacing stare, you see that there, that he gave at the beginning of practice. Like, you knew he was going to have a great day. And I really like kind of your assessment of Grizzard and comparing him to a little bit of Canales and a little bit of Liam Cohen. Because at the beginning of training camp, when Baker, he was throwing a couple interceptions, I think he was testing the limits more of Grizzard's vertical offense. But what you've seen now is as they're preparing for the season, one point that Grizzard made during one of his press conferences and Mayfield himself in command of the offense. He wants
Yes.
to be a leader. He wants to teach these young wide receivers like McMillan, Ibuka. He wants to build trust with them and also teach them that, like, hey, right here, that's when you get open. And you saw that throughout practice, like just so in sync with those guys. And that's going to be huge, like going forward. And I really like this offense. And you have, when Godwin gets back, 4 really superb wide receivers and just
Yeah.
all of the weapons. And this, we've gone for half an hour now. We haven't even talked about the running backs or any other position, just the wide receivers. And I think that goes to show you just how elite this core is.
Yeah, wanted to kind of clean up everything else with the offense, then we'll get over to the defense. As far as the other quarterbacks went, I felt it was an average to solid day for Kyle Trask and Teddy Bridgewater. Trask didn't make many big throws. Neither did Teddy Bridgewater. It's kind of to be expected from Teddy Bridgewater. But again, they didn't turn the football over. So we can't say they were bad if they weren't turning the football over. They weren't as electric as Baker Mayfield, and that's why Baker is the starter for a reason. So it was an okay day from Kyle Trask and from Teddy Bridgewater as well. Bucky Irving, during goal line, he punched in a 2-yard touchdown run. Had some solid runs throughout. Didn't break anything that was 20, 25 yards, but had solid 5-yard runs, 7-yard runs. And I know it's not spectacular, but when you consistently run the football, 2nd and 5 isn't too bad, 2nd and 3 isn't too bad if you continuously keep doing that. So I thought it was a solid day by Bucky Irving. You saw some stuff from Sean Tucker, though, Adam. Why don't you tell everyone about that?
Yeah, so while I thought Irving had a good day, I thought Tucker was the most explosive running back out there, and there was a little bit of a wrinkle that I kind of want to see in Grizzard's offense that you saw on consecutive plays. Sean Tucker, he took a screen pass to the right, and he, like, his second step, Matt, he's already, like, full speed, and this guy, he just blows by everyone else at 210 pounds. Like, you would think, oh, he's a big physical back. No, he's quick with it, too, and everybody talks about last year, like, he had that big game versus the Saints, 14 carries, 136 yards, almost 10 yards a pop. What he also did, though, 3 catches for 56 yards for over 18 yards a catch. And like seeing his receiving ability and you blend that, kind of like the Rachaad White situation where if you just get him in space, like this guy's one tough SOB to bring down because he's just so big, so strong, and so quick. So I really liked what I saw from Tucker. And I also liked that the screen passes went towards the right side. And I think early in the season with Wirfs out, you're going to see them kind of utilize that athleticism and toughness there between Cody Mauch, his ability to get to the second level. You have Luke Gedeke, he's tough as nails. Like all it takes is for him to accelerate into a guy. That guy's going to fall over. So really liked what I saw from Tucker.
Tucker looked pretty good. There was one goal line situation where it was actually a pass play and Tucker didn't pick up the blitz that came through. Outside of that, though, he had a good day. But again, we can't just say, oh my God, the Bucs were great. Everything was great. There were some mistakes. Josh Williams, I liked as well. He was able to cut pretty good, and he's a really good receiving running back as well. If Rachaad White is going to miss time, I think Josh Williams may carve out a situation of, getting some third down reps and becoming a receiving running back for this team. And we'll see what's up with Rachaad White. He's still day to day at the moment. Tight end wise, this is the only spot where it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, specifically with Cade Otton, who was only about 3 practices in from coming back from injury. A bit of a rough day for Cade Otton specifically. Wasn't winning many of his routes in 1-on-1 or 11-on-11 and things like that. And then when he was at the goal line, a pass was completed to him. He's trying to break a tackle and get into the end zone and ended up getting the ball punched out, and he fumbled on the play. I don't think it's an alarm for, the beginning of the season. Just not the best day from Cade Otton out of the tight end room. Devin Cole didn't see that receiving prowess that, we've seen throughout camp. Again, nothing to be alarmed about just yet. Just, things to take note of. The offensive line, though, I thought overall as a group, especially with the ones,
yeah,
I was pretty impressed with how they were doing. Now, Baker obviously helps when you're reading the blitz, and if you see the free man, you got to get rid of it and stuff like that. Really liked what I saw from the offensive line. I know Cam Hayward, the really, really talented defensive tackle, wasn't practicing because he's doing a hold-in at the time. But the Steelers' D-line and edge rushers are still pretty damn good. So I thought the O-line held up pretty well in run blocking and pass blocking. There was only really one issue. It was a holding penalty on Luke Gedeke against TJ Watt. And you know what? That's going to happen from time to time. Because TJ Watt is one of the best players in football. So, yeah, that's pretty much the synopsis for the Bucs offense. A lot of good, some mistakes here and there, but overall, certainly a lot to like about what we saw from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. Speaking of Tampa Bay, there's going to be football in Tampa Bay even before the Bucs play, and that's because the USF Bulls have a game coming up later this month.
Facing pressure, Ransom's going down. Get your South Florida football tickets today.
That's right. August 28th at 5:30, the Bulls are going to be going up against Boise State. So you can actually scan right here and purchase those tickets. Scan that QR code. Go see the USF Bulls play at Raymond James Stadium. Support your local teams, and it should be a great season for USF. They are coming off of a bowl win. They're going to be competitive and some good competition against Boise State. No more Ashton Genty, but they are ranked 25th overall. So you're looking at a ranked college football team. We'll see if the Bulls can get a win and get into those college football rankings as well. So scan that QR code or go to usftix.com and purchase some tickets. usfbullstix.com. Purchase those tickets or season tickets as well. And a reminder, the homecoming for USF is October 18th against FAU, but don't wait until then. Go to that game, but first, go to the game against Boise State on August 28th in just over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All right.
I do have a little seg here. So
Sure.
Byron Brown is the quarterback pictured there. I had the chance to talk to him a couple seasons ago, and he mentioned that one of the quarterbacks that he looked up to was none other than Aaron Rodgers. And the Bucs defense as a whole had a chance to see Aaron Rodgers, even though he's 41, even though he's not the elite quarterback that he used to be, he still has pinpoint accuracy. And man, the defense was tested, but they also made a stand.
Yeah, what'd you see from the defense?
Yeah, so kind of starting off, I had a lot of notes from the one-on-ones. I thought that was the most entertaining part watching the defense practice yesterday. It started off with Jamel Dean going up against DK Metcalf. He had a pass breakup. And then you kind of move forward. Rodgers, he had a couple really good plays. He found wide receiver Keyshawn Williams for a touchdown with Kindle Vildor playing tight coverage. And then he found Pat Freiermuth, the play I mentioned earlier, against Shiloh. Like, this was a case where Rodgers' accuracy, it kind of got the better of Sanders, but Sanders did all he could. He played suffocating coverage. And then you started to see that more from the Bucs moving forward. Even though the linebackers and corners struggled, I thought each corner did well, whether that was Jamel Dean, whether that was Zion McCollum. He almost came away with an interception, but Servassier Dennis, he got burnt on one rep. Kenneth Gainwell, the running back, he got a touchdown. So what did Dennis do during the next drill? After he chatted it up with Mason Rudolph and Aaron Rodgers, he came through real quick and got a tackle for a loss, and really liked what I saw from him. And then you kind of look at the run defense. So the Steelers drafted Caleb Johnson, and the Iowa running back, like, he's projected to be 1,000-yard rusher for him. They didn't do nothing against Kalijah Cansey, had a really nice day. Chris Braswell set the edge really well. Even Jose Ramirez, he laid the lumber on Lou Nichols, one of their running backs. So overall, I thought the defense, they did really well. And that's not even mentioning after the Bucs 2-minute offense, the Steelers 2-minute offense couldn't get nothing going. And who was it to end the practice? Jamel Dean again. He came through. He used every inch of his vertical to break up a pass intended for DK Metcalf. So they shut him down, and that was a high note to end practice.
I'm loving the aggressiveness from the Buccaneers secondary, because there was at one point Jacob Parrish was against DK Metcalf. And, that's just a mismatch in so many different ways. DK Metcalf is a physical specimen. I was joking. I was having a conversation with Eileen Natchuk of News Channel, WFLA News Channel 8. And we were saying how, DK Metcalf has less than 0% body fat. He's got negative 10% of body fat. He's just physical. He should be carved out of a statue, essentially, is how he is. And Jacob Parrish was hands on him, close to, pass interference or a holding penalty, but nothing was called. There were refs there. And to go so physical one-on-one against DK, who is a top 15 wide receiver in the league, it's everything that we've wanted to see from these corners. Jamel Dean with the pass breakups. At least it's happening in clutch moments. Even going back to training camp weeks ago, last week, 2 weeks ago, when he was getting interceptions, it was in the end zone, which he wasn't doing, in that playoff game against Detroit 2 seasons ago. It's closing the game. End scene, Jamel Dean. That's what they should call it. Making the play there, I think, was super important. Christian Izien, I know we talked about him a lot, but Christian Izien is getting to the point where he's not just playing well, he's playing so good that he's getting underneath the skin of his opponents. There were 3 fights in practice today. Now, they were all during special teams, so it was a little bit different. But Christian Izien was talking at the beginning of practice, in the middle, at special teams, and then after as well. And the trash talking got so high level in the special teams moment that a Steelers player punched Christian Izien in the face. Well, in the face mask, but Izien took it like it was no big deal, just stood there. Mike Tomlin told that player, get out of here. Steelers player, not Christian Izien. Said, take off your S, you're out. And for Christian Izien to kind of incite so much anger and fury, it's kind of a cool thing to see, especially because he was fine and okay after getting punched. T says, Izien mainly at corner or safety? He's going to be nickel and he's going to be at safety. Now, right now, with C.J. Roberts out and with Antoine Winfield Jr. out, he's going to play safety because you trust him way more than Shiloh or I think even Kayvon Merriweather at this point. But whether it's Izien, Zion McCollum, even Javian Farr, stuff like that, they're all just buying into the message of Todd Bowles and this entire team. And I think that's really good to see.
Yeah, one play I forgot to mention, you brought up Javian Farr. He actually had an interception in the one-on-ones. There was a quarterback looking for Robert Woods, a veteran wide receiver, and Farr, he deflected it. Ball was in the air, kind of bobbled, and he got the interception. So it was a scrappy play. And this guy, just for signing with the team out this past week, he's made a couple of plays. And with so many corners injured, Matt, he could see a lot of action in the preseason too. And you kind of look at Christian Izien, you brought him up. And I could see him just, even though he's projected to be a backup, the fact that he's played 70% of defensive snaps the past 2 seasons, you're going to see him on the field. And even if it's for Jamel Dean maybe taking a couple plays off and you move people down and move all the chess pieces around, I think Bowles is going to find ways to get Izien on the field because, as you mentioned, he's physical, he's a chirper. And, playing him in the box, playing him in the back, he can do a lot of things.
They say your third year is when you truly figure out, what type of player are you going to be. And I think, Christian Izien is really figuring that out throughout this training camp. Another thing I wanted to mention as well, when you're talking about the defensive line, when Rodgers was going, and I thought Rodgers, again, was fine. A lot of short passes, slant passes, finding the open guy versus the big plays, which is for the defense. You don't want to get burned deep too many times. But Hassan Reddick had a sack on Aaron Rodgers, and they've been moving Hassan Reddick around a pretty good amount. He's not just lining up on the right side. He lined up on the left side a little bit too. They've been moving him and Yaya Diaby over just a little bit, but I love the stunts that we've seen with Hassan Reddick as well. They'll start him outside and move him into the inside and put Logan Hall outside or Kalijah Cansey and stuff like that. Yaya Diaby stunting a little bit too. But we also got to give a shout out to Larry Foote, as you can see in this picture. Larry Foote a couple of weeks ago talked about how he needs ice after each practice because he's very, very sore from, working with all of these outside linebackers. Here's just a brief snippet of him working with Yaya and Hassan Reddick and Chris Braswell and stuff like that. You can see why he gets so sore. He's right in on all of these guys. The padding is so funny too, because he kind of looks like a lobster, without having
he looks like it,
and just using the pads. But you just saw Yaya. That was Hassan Reddick on the next play. Then it goes to the next video. And the reason why we don't have volume is because there was music playing, and we don't want a copyright strike. So that's why there's no music. But there's Yaya. Here comes Chris Braswell. And Larry Foote is right in the mix of everything. And when we're at practice in Tampa, the outside linebackers are usually working on drills much further down the field. So we don't get to watch it up close and personal like we were able to do, yesterday at Acrisure Stadium. So seeing Larry Foote vocal, physical with the guys, backwards hat, ready to roll, ready to work. You knew he had to be pumped because he was in Pittsburgh where, he won Super Bowls with the Steelers and made his NFL career with the Steelers. And he'll be calling the plays on Saturday night as well defensively. So good for Larry Foote, just really putting these players to work. He's got a lot to work with Chris Braswell, but Hassan Reddick getting that sack, I think that was important to point out too, because Hassan Reddick is looking like he's ready to go for the regular season, but also that preseason game on Saturday night.
Yeah, he is. And with Larry Foote, you're seeing these outside linebackers. Unlike last year, they're really getting after it in practice during drills. For being an inside linebacker in the NFL for over a decade, Larry Foote knows how to coach up that position. And you brought up coaches. I also want to mention, I talked to Nick Jackson after practice yesterday, and he had a great game against the Titans. And he kind of spoke about some other coaches that are also players. So I want to share a little bit from Jackson. He said, "They've taught me so much," referring to Levante David, Deion Jones, and Anthony Walker Jr. "I feel like we have so many coaches in the room." The Bucs also brought back Mike Caldwell this offseason. "These guys, every single play, they have something to coach me on." So what does he do? He's soaking it in like a sponge. He's writing everything down and going over it. So I just thought that was a great little snippet. Like you mentioned, Larry Foote and the impact that he has in the inside linebacker room. I think the addition of Mike Caldwell, that's huge. But then you also have so many veterans that are going to be helping Servassier, Nick Jackson, and John Bullock this season.
Yeah, it'll be a good spot for Jackson and Bullock for, who could end up maybe getting a 53-man roster spot, because we still haven't seen Anthony Walker Jr. just yet either. So it's good to have some extra options, some good insurance at inside linebacker, just like it's important to have good insurance here in the Tampa Bay area. So you should be working with Briar Greaves Insurance. If you're a longtime podcast listener, you probably remember the late, great Mark Cook talking about Briar Greaves Insurance. Pewter Report Scott Reynolds has been a Briar Greaves customer for years, and there simply is not a better insurance company in the Tampa Bay area. Visit BriarGreavesInsurance.com to see for yourself. Briar Greaves Insurance is family-owned, and their main goal is helping people. They want to help people find the right insurance policy for you and your family. Whether it's home or auto, boating insurance, or business insurance, turn to Briar Greaves and find out why their personal touch and customer service sets them apart. The days of waiting on hold to speak with an insurance representative that you don't even know are over. With Briar Greaves Insurance, you'll have a relationship with your agent who can answer your questions and advise you on the best policies. As two recent hurricanes have shown all of us that live in the Tampa Bay area, there is a cost to living in paradise. Briar Greaves can help make sure you have the right hurricane and flood insurance to make sure you and your family are protected. Visit BriarGreavesInsurance.com today. That's Briar, B-R-I-E-R, Greaves, G-R-I-E-V-E-S. Call their office today at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. And tell them that Pewter Report sent you. Also, Jason Light uses Briar Greaves Insurance. He said it on this very Pewter Report podcast. So if you love Jason Light, do what he does and give a call to Briar Greaves Insurance pewterreport.com. We also need to give a call and give a shout out to our Pewter Platinum members. So thank you very much to all of you, starting with Scott Federico, Rachel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zap Brannigan, RP89, Connor Four Reels, Kevin Thomas, Leighton Carter, The Guy is Gifted, Brandon Riley, Alec Bickler, Nick Dubuque, Zach Jarvis, Mario Thomas, Eric McMillan, and Dominic Tarantino. Thank you all so much for your support of pewterreport.com and Pewter Report TV. As a Pewter Platinum member, you all helped us get to Pittsburgh, where we covered the solo practice at Carnegie Mellon University, home of the Tartans, and also the joint practice with the Bucs and Steelers at Acrisure Stadium. Everyone that is a Pewter Report YouTube channel member and is a subscriber one way or another helped us get to Pittsburgh. So we thank you so much for your support. And don't forget, Pewter Platinum and Premier members, we will have a Pewter Insider today, pretty much in half an hour. We're going to go at 1:30. SR and myself will be on. We'll talk more about a first look at the Bucs starters, because they are playing in this preseason game against the Steelers and not against the Bills in week 3 of the preseason, because they also play against the Bills in the regular season. So if you're a Pewter Platinum or Premier member, stay tuned. We have the Pewter Insider coming up at 1:30. And for everyone else, stay tuned. On Saturday night, we're going to have a post-game podcast of the Pewter Report podcast. After the Bucs and Steelers play, we will hop on live on our YouTube channel. Not long after the game is done, we usually like to hear from Todd Bowles and then do the post-game show, especially when we're on the road. It's a little more congruent with getting the show going. So we will have that on Saturday night as well. Let's get to a couple of super chats and comments. We'll start with KGH for Life. Thank you for this $5 super chat, who says, last offseason, the Jaguars dominated the Bucs in both practices. The Jaguars were a bad team in 2024. How much stock do you put into the practices? That's a good question, because I think everything needs to be looked at context. What are you working on specifically? Did you have all of your starters? Were you more inclined to look at certain position groups versus get the backups more reps and stuff like that? The Bucs were bad against the Jaguars last year. There's really no denying that. I think with the Steelers, you put more stock into the receivers looking great because all the Steelers starting corners were there. I don't think you put as much stock in, even though the offensive line looked good, I think not having Cam Hayward in there is something to really kind of reflect on and things like that. I think the secondary being aggressive, we've seen that all through training camp, so that's important. I think you got to pick and choose. So I don't think the Bucs are automatically winning the Super Bowl because they look good against the Steelers, but it's definitely the direction that you want to be trending in.
Yeah, I think you bring up great points. Like, for me, when I saw this comment, what I thought of was, who dominated for the Jaguars? Oh, this guy named Brian Thomas Jr., who was like a sensational rookie wide receiver last year. So I look at, the Bucs secondary last year, they didn't do that great in Jacksonville. You kind of saw that carry over into the season. But what I really liked from the Steelers joint practice yesterday, Matt, you mentioned it, the wide receivers looking good, the secondary being aggressive, but overall, they got in good work against a formidable foe. Like, the Steelers defense for like the past decade now has been in the top 10 in scoring defense, and they're well coached. They have an exciting new offense to some extent with DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers joining the fold, and they held up overall. Like, it wasn't like a bad session. Like, one side didn't really get the best of the other, but it was very competitive throughout. And I think that's going to carry over into the season. The Bucs are going to be a competitive team that remains in every ball game.
I think that has a good chance of happening. Get to a couple of comments. Brewtender13 says, is Roman Perotti also injured? Yes, he has been out the past couple of practices. Flash Gordon says, one of my favorite musicians went there, talking about Pittsburgh, and I was struck by Pittsburgh It looks like a great city. I really enjoy Pittsburgh. I've been there about 4 times. You could feel the grit. The bridges are cool. That it's right next to the river is pretty cool. All the stadiums are right next to each other. So I like Pittsburgh. I think it's a good, fun city. Shout out and RIP Mac Miller, who is from Pittsburgh. Shout out Wiz Khalifa. We listened to a lot of Mac Miller and Wiz Khalifa over the last 2 days. So, but yeah, shout out Pittsburgh. Also, David Bartleson said, how did Tez Johnson look? I think he's still kind of getting his bearings underneath. He's getting a couple of punt return opportunities, but he hasn't blown me away just yet since his return back to the practice field. He was looking good up until his injury. So still a TBD. He's been working with, Trask and not really Teddy Bridgewater just yet, but Connor Baselick, who did not get any reps. So still a work in progress for Tez Johnson, still going to be a big part of the offense, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's working his way back, but I remember there was a practice, I think a week and a half ago, where with all the wide receivers out, Tez had an increased target share and he looked really good. So I think right now you're kind of seeing him primarily as a returner, but I'm excited to see his debut on Saturday because, third quarter he comes in, he's so dynamic. He's the Bucky Irving at wide receiver. I think he can make things happen.
By the way, Joel Elrican has now been a Pewter Report YouTube channel member for a whole year.
That's awesome.
Months.
Let's go.
As Joel says, 1 year already. Go Bucs. Thank you so much, Joel, for your support. We appreciate you so much. And congrats on a whole year. That's awesome. That is fantastic. Greg Abdul says, if Ryan Miller is reliable and does not get hurt, the best receiver is the one the quarterbacks know and trust. Ryan Miller's a scrappy dude, and he finds ways to get open. He finds ways to make plays. He is trusted and reliable, and that's why I think he's going to be in red and pewter unless the Bucs try to sneak him onto a practice squad and another team says, we'll take him on the 53-man roster. But the Bucs like him for sure.
Yeah, he's always solid, and then also a good attribute of him, he's a really physical wide receiver. He makes really good catches, but he's also such a good run blocker too, and I think that has allowed him to see the field more.
And then Stubby Ryan, a Pewter Report YouTube channel member, says, nice write-ups about practice yesterday, fellas. Thank you so much. We wrote that in the Uber on the way to the airport. Then after we got through security, waiting for our flight, while also figuring out how are we going to get home with the delays and stuff like that. So we appreciate that. Again, wouldn't be possible without all of our great Pewter people and subscribers and YouTube channel members and stuff like that. So I appreciate the kind words, but we do this for you guys and gals. So thank you so very, very much for that. Before we sign off, Adam, anything you're most looking forward to when it comes to the preseason game coming up on Saturday night?
Outside of maybe Emeka Egbuka seeing the field, what I'm excited to see, I was kind of asking Todd Bowles about it on Wednesday and Thursday, and he told me that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be making an appearance in the preseason. Yep. So I'm excited to see him, see what he still has in the tank, because signing with the team, I think he's the third oldest player, has some of the most experience. I want to see how he kind of leads some unproven second and third string guys in commanding the offense.
The only starters that won't be playing are Baker Mayfield, Levante David, and Mike Evans. So we'll see Teddy Bridgewater, Kyle Trask as well. I'm excited to see this defensive front. I want to see Hassan Reddick and the speed and the pressure off the edge, which we didn't see a ton of from the Bucs last season. Of course, the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers is not playing. DK Metcalf is not playing. So, again, take it with a grain of salt how the defense looks. But I'm excited for the aggressiveness of that unit, which is looking to make a comeback this upcoming season. A reminder, one last time, we're going to have the Pewter Insider in half an hour from now for the Pewter Platinum and Premier members. And we will have a Pewter post-game show coming up after Bucs-Steelers tomorrow night in their preseason game. But also, if you're not already doing so, and we'll let you know when we go live with that podcast. So if you're not already doing so, please follow us on our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We're at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment on what you are most looking forward to for this game. So leave a comment.
Matt, we also
on this video. What's up?
We have a new member.
Kathy Gillespie, who we saw at training camp not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago. Thank you so much, Kathy
Thank you.
Gillespie, for becoming a Pewter Report YouTube channel member. We appreciate that so much. Great way to end the show with the news about Kathy Gillespie. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, everybody that is watching this show right now as we recapped Bucs versus Steelers joint training camp practice in Pittsburgh at Acrisure Stadium. A lot of fun, great time, and check it all out on pewterreport.com and our social media and all that great stuff. So, for Adam Slivon, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you on Saturday for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.